And I am so stoked over our next guest. I couldn't wait to talk to him. So, Danny Green, who was a terrific player in the league, is now on ESPN and Yahoo. He works with a friend of mine, Jason Fitz. And he was here, right? Like, we loved him. And he has such great insights. He's terrific as an analyst. As great as a player, he could be as good as an analyst. Let's welcome Danny Green to the program. Danny, how are you, buddy?
I'm good. How are you?
Dude, your analysis is terrific, man. Let me just tell you, spot on. Like, it's one thing that you're a terrific player and all the whole thing, but you translate the game. Like, it takes a special person to be able to translate the game, and that's the gift that you have.
Thank you. I mean, I do okay. I'm not the best to follow when it comes to betting. Last night, if you'd have took my advice, you might have lost some money. But I mean, I can break down somewhat of what I see. But there were some great games last night. The play-ins, I'm excited for the play-ins tonight. And I think, I'm going to say I hope. But the teams that I chose to win is not the teams that I hope to see win, honestly. I think a lot of people wanted to see the teams that won last night to win, except for the Warriors.
Yeah. Well, listen, forget about the betting stuff. That's all nonsense. Yeah. It's about the game, right? Like, what interests me is the game itself, right? And so let's look at, first of all, you have such a great, unique kind of vantage point because you played with Joel, you played with Tyrese, you know this group. So let's talk about the Sixers and kind of how they have kind of developed now past Harden and what this iteration of this team looks like.
Well, I mean, they're always going to be good when you have Joel, right? And then Tyrese, the emergence of him. So those two guys is a great foundation. They always had, and I wouldn't say always, but they had some solid pieces around them. They just weren't healthy. You know, Kelly Oubre, Tobias Harris, DeAnthony Melton, a guy that's been out for most of the year. So they had some good pieces. Obviously, trades were made early in the season, and then trades were made late in the season. And with the absence of Joel, it's hard to have or find an identity. But Nick Nurse is the coach to do it. You know, he's the guy that they've made an addition to this past summer that will, regardless of what happens, he can figure out a way to keep guys in a rhythm or keep guys in a flow and find an identity. So that's the one advantage that they do have, regardless of who's been in or out with injuries. So I'm interested to see how it plays out. Obviously, playing games is a 50-50 toss-up. You never know who's going to show up, who's going to play well, or what's going to happen. 7-game series. So this is a team that is healthy. I would bet my money on. You know, besides to forget the gambling, but this is a team that could make some noise and come out the East. The East is so wide open with the talent they have. They could, but in this playing game, you just never know what's going to happen in a one-game series type situation.
How does a player, let's look at Joel for a second because you play with him, you know him well, and we've seen him, you know, grow into this force, into one of the most dominating players in the league. And we've also seen his maturity process, right? Like you remember when you know, back when you were at Toronto and that whole series, now we've seen him grow and become, you know, develop a lockdown shot that he has at that elbow, which is a closer mentality. Like he's really hit 30. How does his mindset? How have you seen him grow as a player into what he is now?
I think he's just understood what it takes to be a leader as he's gotten older. You know, more of a locker room guy. I think, you know, when you have kids, the world changes for you. I think part of that has helped him understand different perspectives as well. But he knows that he has to be more involved and be a part of the group and come out of his shell. He's not a guy that really, he comes out of his shell on TV when you guys see him. You know, he play around, dance, maybe with the cheerleaders, stuff like that. You know, troll people on Twitter. But when it came to like actually doing team activities and doing dinners and things like that, putting things together, he wasn't a big fan of that. But I think over the years, he's kind of poured himself into that role, which, you know, we've all seen. You need that. You need that to have that camaraderie with the group and for guys to trust you and for you to lead them. So I think he's done a great job of doing more of that, you know, being involved in stuff on the team playing and team dinners and stuff like that, to be a leader. And to also just be more mature in his approach of how he's taking the game. You know, sometimes he was younger, so he's able to just come to the arena and just warm up quick, or just get warmed up in the first quarter. Now you have to do the small things, take care of your body, make sure the injuries, prevent the injuries. And I've only been around him for a couple of years, but I could tell there's been a transformation and a change, and he's come a long ways. And you can see just in the rehab process that he did with his knee, and how in shape he was when he came back. So that was impressive to see. Because if he wasn't, it would have taken a lot longer, and this team would not have any chance. But I think the fact that he was in shape and he came back and took it serious, they have a shot to do some special. They still have a shot to get to the Eastern Conference Finals. You know, it's not like a impossible. They could still make it out of the East if guys get hot and stay healthy.
Danny, how much of an advantage is that Joel will have fresh legs? All the time off really kind of will allow him that once the playoffs pick up the pace and there's that grind and you're playing every other day and it's very taxing. Yeah. How much advantage will that Joel will have some fresh legs?
I think it's more advantage mentally. He has more of a fresh mind than legs, because his legs are still getting under him. He had to play a lot of minutes as soon as he got back, and he had, I guess, he got a chance to take a game off or two in that 8-game stretch that they were 8-0. But there's no simulation to playing basketball other than playing basketball. So during his rehab, I don't know how much 5-on-5 he got, but he definitely wasn't playing 35 minutes. He came back, played 35, played a couple 30-minute games, maybe some 40-minute games. So his legs are still pretty fresh, but they're still getting under him, and he's still getting used to the playing and the minutes. But his mind is fresh, and that's probably the hardest part of making it through the playoffs into the finals. So he'll be fresh. He'll have the energy to have his mind in a good space, because going through an 82-game season is not easy to do, and then playoffs and try to beat a team 4 times, multiple series over and over. So that's where the advantage comes in. Other guys, they had resting as well, that had injuries. They're more fresh, and so the energy. So they're in a positive space because they haven't been healthy all year with everybody. Now they have that, and it's like, all right, we finally got what we wanted at this time of year. So let's see what we can make happen. And I said I could see them. They could be surprising some people in that first and second round.
Well, and the other thing too is when Joel was out, Maxey was forced to carry the load, right? Like, everybody ran at Maxey. Maxey was forced to carry this entire team, and now all of a sudden he gets Joel back. So now he is the perfect co-star, I think, next to Joel. And his game, he's proven to everyone that he could play that role next to Joe.
Well, he's a special player, and regardless of who's on that floor, but it only opens up the floor even more for him when you have Joel. But it opens the floor for everybody. That's just the attention that Joe brings, And this is the first time some of those guys have gotten a chance to play with him, and they're still figuring him out. The Kyle Lowrys, the campaigns, the Buddy Hield, those guys since the trade deadline haven't got a chance to play with him. So those guys are now getting better looks, open looks. Tobias Harris, Kelly Oubre, those guys are getting better looks. They've had to play, half the season damn near without him, and kind of, I would say, force up shots, but getting shots that they normally wouldn't get if he was on the floor. But now that he's on the floor, they're getting different and probably more open looks. So especially with Tyrese. So Tyrese is a special player, but you have both those guys on the floor, and makes the team that much more dynamic and opens up everything for everybody to get better looks.
I'm curious about something, and you'd be perfect guy to kind of discuss it. When you play with a guy like Maxey, right? Like when Joe, because Joe's had to play with Simmons, and we know Ben's warts. He's had to play with James Harden. We know Hall of Fame player, but there were spells when, he would sag, stuff wasn't falling, right? Maxey has this incredible joy, and he's pretty even keel. Even if his shot's not falling, he never droops. How important is that, do you think, in the long term with an Embiid when he had to play with those two other guys?
Huge, man, because your energy and your attitude is everything in this league. And I said, James was, I think, another very good complementary player for Joel. But I think you see at times James, when he's not in his rhythm, you could see his mood or energy can affect the game some, or can affect Joel's play some. But I think a lot of guys were really good with Joel. I think James was, and Tyrese. I think those two guys are probably the two best teammates that he's had complimentary wise, outside of Tobias being there so long with them together. But those two guys sort of very similar. Tyrese just has a sunshine to him and an energy to him that, regardless of things are not going good or not, guys are happy to play with him and they're okay with the results. So that makes the game a lot easier. That makes it easier to go into battle with somebody and to fight for somebody or to fight with somebody. So yeah, it's a lot of fun watching him grow, man. It's a lot of fun watching him play. I'm a big fan of his game. I think everybody is. Man, love to see where he's at. Obviously, he's in running for most improved player. I would love to see him get that and get even more everything he deserves. But he's a special player that can really take this franchise to new heights.
Yeah, I remember you had a great fondness for him. Like when you were playing with him, you could tell that you got joy from him. Like he
Yeah,
had
there's
that
not many
kind of
people that don't have a fondness for Tyrese. He's just, like I said, he's a sunshine man in Philly. You don't see a lot of it, so he has that energy that people love, man. And the fan base loves him. The team loves him. All the teammates. And I said I got a chance to be lucky enough to have him as a rookie and see him come from the bottom of where he was. And he's not a guy that ever loses confidence. He's always going to be happy and have confidence. But to see, where he's still figuring it out, and I've seen him from that stage to now, which is said you don't get to experience that often when it comes to superstars.
Let's talk about Nick Nurse for a second because you played for Nick. You brought him up earlier. I think he brings something that's different than we've had. Brett was kind of like the steward to kind of get you through the process kind of piece of it. And then I think Doc was better all out of games. Like, he helped Tyrese grow. He helped Joel get that elbow lockdown shot. But in game is kind of where Nick Nurse really flourishes. Would you agree?
I think it's a safe space or safe thing to say, to be fair. I mean, all those guys were real good coaches, I think. Brett Brown was great for the rebuild. So Doc was good with her player empowerment and encouragement and building a player up and molding a guy like Tyrese Maxey to be where he is. And so Nick Nurse, they all kind of do the same, but Nick Nurse is more outside the box and adjustment X's and O's and not afraid to try new things. So he's kind of unpredictable. So yeah, I think it's a fair thing to say about Nick.
That's something like we haven't really had in the game. And this is, and I'll ask you this because you played here, you've followed this team closely. Is this their best chance moving forward to get out of the second round?
No, I mean, so this year has been very up and down, and I think when you keep Joel and Tyrese there, you have a great foundation. I don't know what moves they plan to make this summer. Joel is not old. Tyrese is still very young. Hopefully, Joel will have better health years. If he was healthy all year, I would say so. But we had a really good chance when we had Ben. We played Atlanta. That series, we could have been. I got hurt. I had a calf strain. I think if I don't get
Father's
hurt,
Day. It was Father's Day, Danny. They
yeah,
ruined my whole Father's Day.
yeah. I think we had a really good shot then, and then even after that, they had really good shots. They had a shot last year against Boston. So yeah, they've had instances and really good opportunities, and I think they'll continue to be presented to this group as long as you have Joel and he's not older. So he's got a window of probably another 2 or 3, like 3 years, right? So you got 2 or 3 more years to keep him and Tyrese together and see what you can bring in around them, and that's gonna be interesting. I don't know who's gonna be available. People are looking at Clay, looking at Paul George, those type of guys to be around them. So are you going to bring back Tobias? It's interesting moves that they need to make and see, and that's where, Daryl, the moving pieces guy, he does where his work comes into play. So we'll see what he has cooked up in store in the kitchen.
Do you like that sort of stuff, that roster construction? See now, because I can see you're a cerebral guy, so how pieces that fit together.
Are you trying to put me in front office, my man? I mean, everybody's a GM in Philly. I'm not saying I couldn't do it. I don't mind it, but I heard it's a different type of stress as well. I want to be, I wouldn't say relied upon to, you know what I'm saying? I don't want to be the one to blame when things. But I think it's everybody. When you watch the games, everybody plays GM. Everybody loves the reconstruction roster or what needs to. So I don't think I'd be bad at it. I don't mind it. And some guys play video games on GM mode. But yeah, I don't know if I'm ready for the front office just yet.
How good's Boston? Like, I listen. You're you're talking to
They're
someone
really
that
good.
hates Boston, right? Like hates them. They are so good, and it just is a killer.
They're really good, man. But even them being really good, they still can be beat. You know, there's still some vulnerability. There's still some flaws there, and not many holes, but there are some that people can get through and see through if you have a pretty good, well-coached, disciplined team. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of those in the East, so we will see what happens. And Boston, what said you talked about Tyrese. If his shot's not falling, he still finds a way to float. Boston, if their shot's not falling, they're not floating well. They're kind of live and die by the three type of team. The first team in NBA history to have a full 48 game and not attempt a free throw. So that's kind of glaring. So if you're a team that can limit their threes or hold them to shooting threes poorly for 4 games out of the 7, you give yourself a chance if you play decent defense and if you can score.
Yeah.
So yeah, they have a good team, but I think they lack some depth, and they're really good. Don't get me wrong, they're really good. They have a few small holes and a little bit of vulnerability, which is that they're not unbeatable.
Yeah, Porzingis and Drew Holiday to go along with Derek White with that crew. And last year they had him beat Danny Game 6. It was there. It was there for the taking. Oh
Yeah.
God, Danny, they could have beat him in Game 6. And then Tatum, because remember, Tatum was cold the whole game up until the last 2.5 minutes.
Eventually, he's gonna get hot. Yeah, he got hot. Eventually, he's gonna take enough shots where that worm was gonna turn. But yeah, they had it. They had everything they needed. And said sometimes you guys go cold, but you got to find ways to make defensive stops, make winning plays. So I mean, hopefully this year. If not, said you have 2 more years probably to get that done.
So do you miss us in Philadelphia? Like the one thing that we do that I love is we get into it. Like it matters here, right? Like the energy, like you felt it at Wells Fargo. People, we love this sort of thing.
100%, 100%, man. I feel like my relationship with the Philly fans is very love-hate relationship. It probably started out as, I'm gonna say hate at first, but it started out not so rocky. But they came in and they embraced me and they showed me a lot of love, especially during my last playoff series or so and my last times of coming back after injury. Man, it said I can't not ever not love the city of Philly and the fans of Philly the way they showed me so much love coming back when I was on the other team, when I was a Cleveland Cavalier. They gave me a standing ovation. And I said during the playoff run, after COVID, I got at a different time. But yeah, man, I do enjoy playing for those fans and in front of that, in that arena and in that city. So yeah, I do miss the fan base. I do miss the city some. So yeah, so it's a love hate relationship with them. But
Yeah,
everybody
no
in Philly's
hate.
a GM.
No, everybody
Yeah,
loves.
no
Listen,
hate.
no hate.
No,
There's
hey,
no
it's just
hate.
that it's just blue collar, man. You know how it is. They show tough love. So when you have coaches or teammates or fans that show you tough love, it's one of those you love them. You know they want the best for you, but at the same breath, you're not the most excited to be like get criticized all the time.
You know what it is. The town wants players to want to win as much as they do. Like
For sure.
it's an obsession, right? Like it's
Yeah.
it really is. Like
And I
we
don't
that
I
way.
don't know what gives them the vibe that the players don't.
Well,
I
love the game.
mean,
Listen, certain
guys are
guys are
trying, guys want to win. They just
no, but
like,
certain
some
guys
guys
are
have
different,
bad
right?
nights.
Like you
Hmm.
are a guy that wanted to win always, right? Joel, like Maxey, or Ben didn't jive. Like Ben didn't jive with the town, and I mean,
I
he
get
had his
I get
own
some
different
guys
relationship.
I get some guys that they were hard on and understand why, but there's some guys. I mean, they're hard on. I feel like everybody's fair, which I appreciate. They do show tough love. They're hard on everybody
Yeah.
pretty fairly. Regardless if you want to win or not, they want to win, and they're too smart for their own good. So everybody's a really good GM. They know the game really
Yes.
well, and that's why they're able to critique guys the way they are.
Yeah. No, it's true. No, they're into it. They know the game is right. Danny, I got to tell you, I love this, man. You a lot of fun. This is
Thank
this
you.
is this suits you. All right. So
And
you
thank you. Yeah, hopefully, man, we'll see. I mean, I'm not done playing. I have not officially hung him up yet, so we'll see what happens. What's in store for me in the next coming year or so. And if not, that you'll probably be seeing me. Said eventually I'll be doing this full time, but right now it's part time. I'm a freelance guy, so you see me doing Yahoo, ESPN, Odyssey, TN with stuff with Turner, Betcast, different random stuff. I'm just trying it out to see how it goes, and so far it's been fun, man. It's a new challenge. I like it. I enjoy it, but I think I still have a couple good years left in the legs after taking like a year or so off, and doing all that rehab. I didn't do all that rehab to just sit on the side and hang them up. So I'm trying to give another year or two. We'll see what happens.
Well, the good thing is that the Eel, Daryl Morey, has a blank slate, right? We got like a clean blank slate to build around Tyrese and Joel, and a guy that can shoot the three and play D. Just saying.
Yeah, we'll see. We don't know what Daryl's gonna do, but I highly doubt Daryl's gonna want the old guy back, and so I might have to take my talents elsewhere. Who knows? But we'll see what happens.
Listen, as a role guy, come in and play, 8-10 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not opposed to that. I know where I'm at in life, and I'm not trying to be a superstar. So that's just the role has always been the role for me, and obviously less of a role than it has been in the past. But just want to hoop and want to hoop before I call it quits.
I wish you the best, man. I hope that happens for you. And I'm going to bother you toward the as the playoffs go on with this team. So it's a true pleasure, buddy. All right, best of luck to you, my man.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys.
Danny Green, I love it, man. Good stuff.